Hello, my name is Natalie and welcome to my channel Knitting-a-GoGo, and today I wanted to talk about my Mary Quant knitting pattern collection. So I first discovered these knitting patterns when I was in my late teens, and I was really liking the 60s aesthetic and I was loving Mary Quant as a designer, and it was very difficult to find her original clothing and to sort of purchase and buy back then. The internet was still in its infancy, so things weren't easy to sort of find online or anything like that when I was a teenager. And I was in my local charity shop one day looking for vintage clothing, and I also like to look at the haberdashery section because I sew as well, and I was sewing a lot of clothes for myself back then. And I came across this Mary Quant knitting pattern, and it was the first one I ever found, and it even had the wool shop from my hometown of where it originally was sold, like the stamp of the yarn shop. And I was just so excited to find a pattern that I could make of her clothing. And they were all written for sort of a certain size then, starting from like 34 bust, some going up to a 36 and some going up to a 38. And back then I was a bust size smaller. So when I originally knitted that, because I was a hand knitter as well at the time, so because I've always knitted since I was a child, so I was able to easily knit this cardigan back then. Although I had to knit it on smaller needles, I hadn't studied to be a knitwear designer at that point, so I didn't know how to alter the stitch count or anything, so I just knitted it on a smaller needle to get the size in. And I remember knitting it in sort of some white acrylic yarn at the time from my local yarn shop that was cheap and affordable for me as a teenager. So once I discovered this pattern, it got me into collecting them, so I started to be on the lookout for any Mary Quant patterns, and I've managed to collect quite a few over the years. So I'm actually doing this video in two parts because, as you can see in this one, there is like a flower in the background, and she had a certain amount of designs that had that kind of background with all the photography. But what I've established is in her earlier pattern she had a slightly different graphic, and it wasn't the flower that we all know Mary Quant for. It was more like this, as you can see here, and this little sort of drawn flower on there. And so for that reason I thought I'll do this in two parts. So I'm just going to show you the patterns from this particular time in the 60s when she designed or collaborated with the yarn companies and designed these. So the first one I have here is a collaboration with Wendy Yarns, or Wendy Wool, and Wendy still exists to this day. And it was this cardigan here, you can see. And that was in a 34 to 38 inch bust size. And it's a knitted textured stitch top with a crochet edging around the border on this one. The next one I've got here was a collaboration with Lee Target, you can see. And this one's quite interesting because it was a cardigan but also some knee-high socks, you can see there, in this lovely sort of teal shade, and it was in their Cortel double knitting. So she was collaborating with different yarn companies to produce these patterns. And there's another Lee Target one here. And this one is actually crochet, so that one is a longer sort of crochet dress. And this sort of grey shade. And again, you can just see these graphics in the background of the style of photography they did for them back then. The next one is with Hayfield yarns, and if you can see, it's a cardigan design. Now I know that this particular pattern was released in January 1966, and the reason I know that is because I've got an actual Hayfield yarn catalogue or pattern booklet catalogue that I believe would have been given to a wool shop or a yarn shop back in the 60s to pick through and maybe choose some patterns they wanted to like stock in their shop. And so that led me to believe that perhaps the actual pattern would have been designed in around 1965 if it was released in January 1966, which would make sense because I feel like the designs are sort of coming out of that maybe 1964 sort of to 65 sort of period of these, like this one here. This is with Coats yarn. It's a beautiful blue with this sort of pearled cable at the top there, and this sort of textured stitch on there. And again, that's just for the jumper design there. There's a little close-up pattern there, you can see. And the next one's another Hayfield one, which again was in the same yarn catalogue from when they were published or they were released for the yarn shops to buy in January 1966. And it's this lovely little dress along with these. Again, you can see the stockings there as well. And a belt as well. The next one is with a yarn company called Payton's, who still exists to this day as well. And this has got a dress, some mittens and a hat as well, so you could have the whole ensemble there. With a really nice sort of cable detail on the hat, the mittens, and also on the side of the skirt there. And here's another close-up of the mittens. And here's another Payton's one, which is with a Payton's flare yarn. And that was also, this is all Payton's flare. And this is a brown dress. And again, you can't really see them in the photo, but there is some socks there as well that you could make, or, you know, long socks. As you can see there. And that's got a nice sort of rib detail and another belt again on the top there. And again, I would say they're very true to sort of that 1965 period when they were designed. And this is another Payton's flare one, cardigan design. Quite a nice, just simple ribbed cardigan there. And of course, again, the hairstyle sort of makes it from that time period. So it seems she did quite a lot with the Payton's flare ones, because I do have a few more here as well. This is one with a little sweet little bonnet, like cap, and then also you've got the crocheted like stockings, you see there, and also the dress with a tie belt and crochet sleeves. So that again was a combination of crochet and knitting on that particular design. And this Payton's flare one has got another nice little crochet detail on the collar there and on the cuffs as well. A really good fun there. And also that one comes with some long socks with again crochet detail on the top of them there. Now I do actually have the vintage yarn in a similar colour to make this particular top. I did manage to find some, so if anyone would like me to actually knit that particular top and do a vlog of it, then please let me know, and I can do that as well. And also what I like, it's got this really lovely little button details there as well. Now this Payton's flare one is one that I've actually knitted as well. I knitted this again many years ago in a white like this, and I've recently knitted it again, and I've got another YouTube video if you want to check it out where I've knitted it in the original yarn again with the Payton's flare, and it's in a burgundy sort of shade, as you can see here. And that was a really nice straightforward one to do and really quick to knit, because it's sort of a Payton's flare yarn, sort of a between sort of, it's more of a bulkier yarn, so it knitted up super fast. I mean, I think I made it, I can't remember now, but I'm sure I made it like within a week or something. It was really quick and sort of easy, just sort of ribbed all the way up. And I wear it a lot. It's really nice wear actually. It's nice and warm. And it's because it's got the cortel content, the yarn hasn't sort of fallen apart or disintegrated in the time of that being released in the 60s. So it's quite good to be able to put the yarn to use. You know, it's not been thrown away, it's been put to good use and being worn now, so that's really good. So I've also got this one from Wendy, who I said earlier they still exist, and I love this cute little label on the back because it's Wendy Wool, and look, it's got a lovely little cat on there, you can see, so cute. And again, this is another bonnet design with a little dress, and also the socks again, which again is a combination of knitting and crochet, and a cute little tie belt there. The next one I have here is a Sirdar yarn one, when Mary Quant collaborated with Sirdar, and it's a really nice sort of, it's called Candy Twist, this yarn, but it's almost got like flecks in it, a bit like, it's like two different sort of combination colours in it, as you can see there, and I love that belt on that. Again, a really simple design, but it's got the rib, but then a nice sort of cable up the sleeves on that one, as you can see there. And again, I'd imagine that would be quite a straightforward sort of knit to do as well. Now this Sirdar one is a cardigan and socks again, you can see. And again, it's a combination of knitting with like a crochet border on that one. I find a lot of her knitting patterns were predominantly knitting, and then there'll be some crochet edging. Some were completely crochet, but on the whole, a lot of them seem to be more knitting based ones. And this one is with emu yarns, as you can see here, which has got that sort of cool two-colour pattern there. And this was for the socks, the dress, and also that cute little beret as well, you could knit too, with a little pom-pom. So again, you've got a whole ensemble. So Mary Quant did have a tendency to do a lot of patterns that had the whole thing, like the accessories sometimes with those as well. And then this is another emu one, and again this yarn company still exists to this day, and it's this top here. So you can see with this top here, it's got a really nice sort of cable detail on the edges. And I actually decided with this one to make this top myself, as you can see here. And here's another photo of it too. And what was great was with emu yarns, you can still pretty much get this yarn equivalent. Not the exact yarn, this was called tail, but there's an acrylic equivalent, and it knits to the same tension, I found. Again, I've done another video if you want to check it out where I actually knitted this and did a vlog on that one. You might want to check out. And the yarn was super cheap because it's acrylic. It was I think less than £10 I paid to make this whole sweater, so it was really cheap in that respect, but it is acrylic. I mean, that's a great alternative if you can't wear wool, or you don't want to knit with wool. Then just so you know that this particular yarn does knit to these vintage patterns, so that's really good. And at some point I think I'm going to do a tension swatch of different emu patterns I've got, so you can see. I'm going to see if they all knit like that with this particular yarn, which I thought would be interesting to let you guys know if it does. So if you've got some other emu yarn vintage patterns you maybe wanted to knit, then you've got that particular yarn you can use, which is from the same company ultimately. So that's really good. And then the next one I've got is Lister Bel Air, and again Lister, as far as I'm aware, I'm not sure if they merged, but they as far as I'm aware, they don't exist anymore as Lister. And this is all for a crochet dress too, you can see there. And what I noticed on this one, the background was slightly different on these ones. It's got like a round sort of circle. So I'm not sure with these ones if it was the same time these were photographed, or if it was slightly afterwards. I'm not entirely sure. But you can see like there's the geometric sort of backgrounds on this, and this, like I said, was more of a circular one I noticed. But again, not often you have the crochet one so much, but that's just an all pure crochet one. and it's sort of got a rope tie belt there, which is quite effective with a nice sort of wooden, well, I'm not sure they're wooden buttons or like plastic buttons, but they've sort of got like a wood effect to them, or that colour. And again, another crochet one. This again was from Lister, using their Bel Air yarn, and it's really cool stripes here. Again with the socks and the top. And again with this one, it's got this kind of circle again. So I think they were sort of again photographed around a similar time. And because they have these backgrounds, I wonder if they just took the backgrounds to different places, or whether they had all these yarn companies at once have, I don't know, if they photographed them all together. I think in some of them, obviously there's some models that are on the same ones here sometimes, and like on Serda and Lister, you've got what appears to be the same woman here. So they may have done them in a batch, I just don't know. It'd be interesting to know. But I haven't found out much information on that. So that's the end of part one with that pattern collection I've got. There are so many Mary Quant knitting patterns that were released in the 60s. I don't have all of them. As and when I find more, I collect them because I just think they're really nice, and I do plan to do some more makes with them. But I don't necessarily know exactly how many there were. I think all the yarn companies just used to release them within lots of other patterns they did for that particular year. As I saw in this Hayfield catalogue, which is amongst lots of other Hayfield knitting patterns, and there was just a couple of sort of Mary Quant ones that I actually do own slotted in between them. So I hope you enjoyed this video and a little look through these patterns. And if you'd like to see part 2, please feel free to subscribe to my channel so you'll be first to know when that video is uploaded. And once again, thank you for watching.